2025 has already been a massive year for utes. We've had the launch of the BYD Shark 6, the Ford Ranger PHEV, and of course the Kia Tasman. But this could be the biggest one yet. It's the all-new MG U9. Now, the formerly British, now Chinese brand has made no secret that it has big aspirations in the Australian market. But to achieve them, it needed a ute. Hence the U9's arrival. Now, we saw a near production ready version of this back at the Melbourne Motor Show earlier this year, and now it's almost in showrooms. So how did MG get an all-new ute here so fast? Well, it didn't. Let me explain. The secret to the speedy development of the new MG ute is the fact that it's not an MG at all. It's actually the LDV Terra 9, which has recently gone on sale in Australia as well, albeit through a different distributor. You see, MG and LDV are both part of the giant SAIC automotive group, so MG has been able to shortcut the development of its own ute and just rebadge the Terra 9, albeit with some unique MG features of course. This allows MG to focus on its key selling strength in Australia: price. MG has a reputation for its aggressively competitive pricing strategy in Australia, trying to win over buyers with the most affordable or best value products in any given segment of the market. For its debut ute, MG has made its intentions very clear, with the 3 variant range starting at just $52,990 drive away for the U9 Explorer. The mid-range U9 Explorer X starts at $55,990 drive away, while the flagship Explorer Pro is priced from $60,990 drive away. By comparison, the Terra 9 starts at $53,674 drive away for the Origin entry-level model and rises to $58,973 drive away for the higher grade Evolve. Importantly, the Ford Ranger dual cab 4x4 pickups start at $51,130 plus on-road costs for the entry-level XL. So MG has made sure to undercut the most popular ute to give itself the best chance of success. Now, if you want more details on the specifications and pricing, make sure you read my in-depth written review at carsguide.com.au. In terms of design, the U9 cuts an imposing figure. Now, this is an upsized ute. Effectively, it's bigger than a Ford Ranger, but smaller than a Ford F-150, if you get my meaning. It's 5.5 meters long. It is, unsurprisingly, the same length and dimensions as a Terra 9, but also the GWM Canon Alpha is the same sort of upsized ute. So it's obviously a popular size in the Chinese market. Australians have yet to really embrace it, but we'll see. Obviously the U9 and the Terra 9 have only just arrived, so we'll see if they can have more success. But like I say, it cuts an imposing figure. It's got this huge grille, and I'll be honest, it's a bit strange to see this classic MG emblem on such a big vehicle. It was once synonymous with compact sports cars. It's now on a really big vehicle, but from a design perspective, MG has kind of ticked the box of creating a, conventional ute that the market has embraced, which is the big truck-like, slab-sided, squared-off edges. And so it'll be interesting to see, again, how the market reacts to this bigger size now that MG is involved. Now, inside, that very truck-like exterior, the big boxy exterior, gives way to a much more SUV-like cabin. Honestly, you've got the big digital screens, you've got nice switchgear, nice trim materials in this high-grade model we're driving. Overall, it does give a very SUV-like impression, and I think that's probably in line again with what people are now expecting. That's how utes have evolved, and they've become much more of a family vehicle. So it's interesting that MG has managed to, I guess from a design perspective, they've captured that exterior look spot on in terms of what buyers want, the big bulky look, but inside they want a bit more refinement, and I think the U9 delivers in that department. That SUV-like interior and the larger dimensions make for a very pleasant cabin with loads of space. Unfortunately, we didn't get too much time to experience the infotainment system, but the 12.3-inch touchscreen looks good and operated smoothly, while the inclusion of large physical buttons for the air conditioning and the audio system is a positive for those who value ease of use. There's a generous amount of room up front in the U9, but it's the back seats that really impress. Unlike the sometimes cramped back seats in a conventional sized dual cab ute, the U9 has plenty of legroom and headroom for 4 or even 5 adults to fit in comfort. There's also plenty of small item storage, including a wireless charging pad and USB outlets just ahead of the gear selector. As for the tray out the back that is so important to ute buyers, it measures 1600mm by 1600mm at the top, but it narrows to 1230 millimeters between the rear wheel arches. Now, despite its big size, the payload is only rated at 870 kilograms for the Explorer and just 770 kilograms for the top-of-the-range Explorer Pro. Now, beyond just the facts and figures, the U9 has some cool features, namely this tailgate back here pops open at the press of a button, another press of a button, this pops down so you can access the tray, but again, pop that down again, and bam, you've got yourself an easy step into the back of the tray, which is a cool feature. There's no doubt about it. No one else is offering this in the Australian market at the moment, and so MG is trying to have those little surprise and delight features that are going to make life easier for ute owners and therefore make the U9 more appealing. Now, at the other end of the tray, we do have another clever feature. As you might have noticed, the rear seats have been folded down. That's a fairly straightforward process. Once I've done that, I simply press this button, the rear window will lower, and the whole back half of the tray will actually fold down into the cabin. Now, that creates a really long load space. Basically, items that might otherwise be hanging out the back, you can slide them in all the way up to the edge of the driver's seat. It's another handy feature. It's, again, not something we've seen before in utes in Australia, but it shows that MG is sort of trying to think outside the box to attract buyers to the U9. Now, MG may have plenty of hybrid knowledge, but they've opted to keep it simple with the U9 and have stuck to the turbo diesel engine formula. They've got a 2.5 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel that makes 163 kilowatts of power and 520 newton meters of torque. That's paired to an 8-speed ZF transmission and a Borg-Warner four-wheel drive system. Now, MG was keen to point out those brand names, ZF and Borg-Warner, because they do have a lot of experience in the ute segment, and it's something I've noticed a trend of when these newer brands come into this segment. They do like to highlight that they are bringing the mechanical hardware and knowledge of more experienced operators. So obviously this is the same powertrain as the LDV Terron 9, but it is also the kind of powertrain that buyers expect in this segment. As all three variants are powered by the same engine, all return the same fuel economy, rated at 7.9 litres per 100 k's on the combined cycle. With an 80 litre fuel tank, that gives the U9 a theoretical driving range of more than 1,000 kilometres, which is great for anyone looking to take their ute on a long road trip. We've talked about all the facts and figures, we've looked at the clever bits and bobs that the U9 offers, but what is it like to drive? Well, I can't tell you entirely what it's like to drive because our time behind the wheel has been somewhat limited and it has been restricted in the sense that these are pre-production vehicles, so we can't actually legally drive them on the road, public road. So instead, we've spent the day driving them off-road at an off-road park, you know, in a variety of different conditions. We've done a bit of towing. We've done some incline work and now just sort of hitting some trails, just done a slight river crossing. So got an experience, got a taste of what the U9 offers, and the first impressions are, you know, I would say overwhelmingly positive. I think the big thing is MG has made the right decision to go with a diesel engine. You know, that obviously that is the bulk of the market. There's obviously an argument to be made that a plug-in hybrid like the Shark would be an option, and certainly I think that is something that frankly MG is considering. It's somewhat of an open secret for them that they are considering a plug-in hybrid version of the U9 in the future. But I think for now, to establish the U9 and establish MG as a ute brand, having a ute that frankly sounds like a ute is important. You know, this you know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, you know, this has the slab-sided, it's a squared off body, and it looks like, you know, it looks like a ute, and it sounds like a ute. It's got that classic diesel engine. Let's dive into another little river crossing here. Oh, okay, might have to engage full low. Here we go. Actually getting some proper off-roading. Let's go front and rear. Alright, let's see if we can get ourselves out. There you go. Pulls itself out. No worries at all. So, again, it's got all the functions that you expect from a ute. it's got the diff locks, it's got full low, so you can get yourself out of those little tricky situations. But yeah, overall I think they've done the right thing with the diesel. Obviously the big thing with the package is the mechanical package is the option of the going down the path of a multi-link independent rear suspension, which is going to improve the on-road handling, which obviously I haven't had a chance to test. It should make it a more comfortable ute than the average dual cab, but obviously that typically comes at the expense of payload and practicality and that hardcore off-roading. So the kind of buyer that wants a hardcore off-roader will be put off. But for those who want a more urban-centric, who really want the ute to be the new family vehicle, well then there's a lot to like about how the MG U9 performs even off-road. So it ticks those boxes, I think, nicely. So it'll be interesting to see though once we get it out in the real world, get it out on the open road, we can really give you a definitive verdict in the future. In terms of safety, the U9 has all the usual features that you should expect of any new car in 2025. This includes airbag protection for all occupants, plus active safety features including autonomous emergency braking, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, and a host of others. Moving on to ownership costs, warranty, and servicing, which are key factors for many ute buyers, MG has tried to make itself as appealing as possible. Now, as for the ownership credentials, the U9 is covered by MG's 7-year warranty, not the newer 10 years of coverage that it provides to its passenger vehicles. However, that does require you to get your servicing done via your official MG dealer in order to the full 7 years to apply. You'll have to get all your servicing done for the first 5 years, which means you'll be spending $2,395, and then you will get the extra 2 years of coverage. However, it's also important to note that this only applies to non-commercial use vehicles. So while the average tradie will be covered, according to MG, fleet buyers and other sorts of businesses are stuck with just the standard 5-year warranty. So it's important to make sure you read the fine detail. Now, MG has also worked on expanding its dealer and servicing network to respond to some growing pains and ensure owners aren't burnt and return for their next MG. There are currently 120 MG dealers across Australia, with plans to gradually expand that footprint into more regional areas following the launch of the U9. So what's the verdict on the U9? Has MG created a serious impression, or is the U9 just going to fade into the background of an increasingly crowded ute market? To be honest, I can't give you a definitive verdict based on our limited time behind the wheel. However, what I can say with certainty is that MG is serious about making the U9 a success. The price alone demonstrates how motivated the brand is to win buyers over, undercutting the likes of the Ranger and the Hilux with a physically larger ute is a strong opening move from the brand. The clever features, the spacious cabin, and the smart technology will also help win over buyers. But that does not guarantee any success, as the dominance of the Ford and the Toyota demonstrate ute buyers are both loyal and drawn to the most popular options. So MG will need to fight hard for every single sale to ensure the U9 doesn't get lost in the crowd. So remember, if you want to know more about the MG U9 or any car, make sure you check out our in-depth written reviews at carsguide.com.au.